From Cali to Tally, it's time to wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source, and this is Wake Up War Chant. Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hudjavandi and Corey Clark.
Wake up! Oh, I got a good feeling about this one. It's Friday. We're working. Why? Because we like you guys. I'm Aslan. He's Corey. It's Wake Up War Chant. Follow the show on all platforms of social media. Facebook, Twitter. Go on iTunes. Leave a 5-star review. Let's start building that stuff back up, folks. We haven't bothered you in a while about that. But for whatever reason, subscribe, then unsubscribe. Subscribe, then unsubscribe. Then subscribe again. Right, Corey? That means they'd be subscribed.
Is that how that works? You want them to subscribe and unsubscribe?
Yeah, apparently that does something. I mean, for all we know, that's what everybody that hosts the podcast says, but I would imagine that the people at Apple are hip to this and have probably corrected it, but that's still the conventional wisdom if you want to juice up the numbers on your ratings and all that kind of stuff. I haven't delved in there in a while. I guess it's like part of my sort of quasi-New Year's resolution. Like, I don't read the YouTube comments anymore. The only thing I do is I'll read the thread on warchant.com. Use the promo code WARCHANT30 on the Tribal Council. Join the family. It'll be good times. And I usually won't read anything on the boards until at least noonish. So I give myself like a good 2-hour buffer after I wake up to not let you mean people try to ruin my day. It's been working so good, so far so good. Don't you think I've been rejuvenated? Don't you feel a new Aslan in 2019, Corey?
Yeah, but I always thought that was just me, kind of rubbing off on you.
Okay.
Like finally you were taking some of the Clark magic and sprinkling it on yourself and having a different outlook on life. But whatever the case may be, and whyever the case may be, it's whyever. That's a real word.
I'm rubbing off on you now.
Whyever, yeah, really. I don't care how you got here. I like this Aslan a lot better.
Okay, right on. Spring game is announced, folks. We'll get you some details on whether or not they're going to open up the Champions Club to us commoners to go up there and hang out and see how the good life is. But it's April 6th. It's going to be a good time. Come to town, hang out. We'll probably have some sort of meet and greet. Again, we'll have all those sort of details as we hammer them out. But they did send the email out today. It is official. It will be Saturday, April 6th. There, unfortunately, is no baseball in town that weekend. But, man, let's just get back out there. Let's hear the Pats popping, Corey. Let's see some tempo. Let's just see a laser show out there. Whether it's 12 or 1, just a laser show. I'm ready. I think it's going to be a good spring game. Probably not 60,000 again this time around, but I'm still going to be optimistic that at least it'll maybe look a little more fun.
Yeah, I probably won't be there. I don't know if the administration understood this, but that's also the same weekend. That's the Final Four weekend in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay.
And unless something really drastic happens, I don't see how this basketball team isn't there participating in the Final Four. So, obviously, War Chant's going to have to be split in half. Florida State doesn't go to the Final Four every year.
Yeah.
So, I assume half of us will be at the spring game, the meaningless spring game, and the other one will be in the Final Four, seeing if Leonard Hamilton can bring home a championship.
Can you imagine how disrespected Leonard felt on Thursday afternoon? He's like, "What? Spring game, same week as Final Four? Disrespect." I think that's probably bulletin board stuff right now in the locker room. I don't think we're going to make it to Minneapolis. Let's show.
Yeah, probably so.
All right, I dig it, but
I don't think Leonard probably thinks like that. He's probably, what he's doing? He's probably just concentrating on Miami for Sunday, seeing if his team can figure out how to win a game away from the Civic Center,
or maybe listening to his music collection, kind of dusting off some old 45s and listening to them, see how they sound.
Probably, I imagine he does that for hours every night. He's got so many literally tens of thousands of albums. It's nuts. Anyway, enough about Leonard Hamilton's. Musical
life.
taste, but he probably doesn't care that much. Now, if they do get to the Final Four and he realizes that half the Florida State media contingent isn't in Minnesota, number one, it's hard to travel these days in this business, but because they're back home covering a scrimmage, he might take a little bit of umbrage with that, maybe.
Slight umbrage.
It would be fair, but you know what, Leonard? You got to win 4 games in the tournament first.
They can do it. $10 general admission tickets. There will be a post-game concert. They have not announced the act or acts. And there will be reserved seats in the Dunlap Champions Club also available. They didn't give us the details on that. But give them a call or go to Seminoles.com or call 850-644-1830. Spring game, April 6th, 4 p.m. it starts. Garnet and Gold game. Who you got? I got Garnet -6.5.
Oh, I like Gold. Gold by at least 2 touchdowns. Who do you think's going to be the musical act? Who are you thinking?
Oh,
last year, wasn't last year the Salt and Pepper? And
yes. Yeah.
That was the spring game, right?
Correct. Throwback to the 90s.
Yeah, so with Rob Bass. So I think they're going to go in a different direction this time. I don't think that was as well attended as they would have liked. Although, what are you going to get? I mean, unless you bring like Garth Brooks. That would be a nice concert for after the spring game.
Great.
I bet there'd be 70,000 people in the stadium for that.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm not a Garth fan by any means, but I know most of the people in this state are apparently. So I'm looking at either like a Garth Brooks, maybe U2,
Jethro Tull, perhaps.
No, I think no. We're going something bigger, man. They're tired of like delving back into the 80s and nostalgia. They want people that are still relevant. And I understand Garth Brooks and U2 haven't had a big hit in a long time, but they still sell out stadiums.
Stop patronizing everybody and like put out a big time act. Like I know it's Leon County. We are a simple people. We enjoy a big sandwich. But come on, man. Give us something with some flair. Give us some Imagine Dragons. Come on, bring someone big. Bring them to the Hassie.
Sure, maybe not Imagine Dragons, but I get the point. I really appreciate the sentiment. And also, Garth Brooks is playing in the Swamp.
Has he?
Why does the University of Florida get Garth Brooks? And again, I'm not saying I'm a huge Garth Brooks fan, but I know he's a huge act. Why does the University of Florida get Garth Brooks and Florida State gets like
that act
the
dollars,
dude that would
man.
be the third undercard for Garth Brooks, like the opener to the opener? I can't even. Jason Owens or Clive Baker, whoever these country acts are that come to Tallahassee, why can't Florida State get Garth Brooks? Why can't Florida State get anyone? Coldplay, U2, The Killers, Post Malone, anybody that's big, bring them here.
We don't have those
182 for heaven's sake.
The big ad dollars.
Get all the acts that were supposed to be in the Fire Festival and bring them to Doak for the spring game.
I've had so many funny little quips, but you can't even hear me because apparently when you talk, you cannot hear me. So,
but can the people hear you?
Yeah, but it's not as funny when you don't react. Like, all right, Aslan, he didn't hear you the second time. Stop saying it. So,
what did you say?
Nothing. I mentioned when you said Garth, I'm like, he should also bring Chris Gaines with him. And I don't know. I said something else.
Now that's how Florida State would do it. Yeah. They would get Garth Brooks, but only for his Chris Gaines stuff. You know what I mean? No, we got Chris Gaines coming for the spring game.
Yeah. Anywho, it'll be a good time. We'll be there. We'll cover it. Or we'll be in Minneapolis. We'll figure it out one way or the other. With that said, I don't think anything newsy's really been happening since the last time we talked, so we're going to hop back into the Renegade Express. But before that, real quick, again, use the promo code WarChant30. Join the family on warchant.com. Signing days coming up. You need the latest and the greatest on that. My thread of the week so far, Corey, is... It's almost the post of the week. It's inside of a thread titled, Your QB1, folks. And apparently somebody took a screenshot of DeAndre Francois as he was, I guess, Instagram living. And he's kind of like in a robe and has like a bandana on. It looks like he's kind of luxuriating in his own house. A little bit creepy that people are screenshotting a 21-year-old kid socializing on the internet. But hey, you're a quarterback of Florida State. You're broadcasting live. People are going to watch. Anyhow, a bunch of people like, I can't believe our quarterback looks like he's at a spa hanging out. And then you have your faction of, leave DeAndre alone. What's wrong with you guys? Leave him alone. And somebody comes in there off the top rope that, rather him, because somebody, I guess it was embarrassing. Someone's like, well, I'd rather be embarrassed like that than be accused of sexually assaulting a girl or getting up on a table and screaming expletive or stealing crab legs. And then people are like starting to pick sides on the whole Jameis DeAndre thing. And then one guy's like, listen, my problem isn't with him personally. It's he's not very good. I could care less what he wears. And then post of the week comes from Mike_G. And says this, at this point, I take a serial killer who could read a defense. There we are. There's where we're at. We're going to get better, though. All right, let's delve back into the bag.
Speaking of, I think today, well, as we record, so yesterday for the people listening to this, what is like the 30th anniversary, 31st anniversary maybe of Ted Bundy being electrocuted. Speaking of serial killers.
All right, right on.
With ties to Florida State. I always say that because there's a new
Sparky.
Netflix documentary out on him.
Okay. All right. Let's get back to the bag. It's called the Renegade Express for our subscribers on War Chant. Iowa Knoll 1. Hello again. Coming to you from beautiful Iowa. Wind chills of -30 on Thursday night. Bet you wish you were here. Have you ever thought of having someone from Seminole Boosters on to talk about the program, how easy it is to become one, what it does for FSU, etc.? While we've topped the 15,000 member mark, getting more exposure and more members would be extremely beneficial. Sorry if this has been done in the past and I missed it. We should get Jerry Coots on here one time because he's like a wealth of knowledge and he knows about that stuff. But yeah, we haven't done anything like that. That's crazy. 15,000 members. That sounds like a small number, but that's a good size army. That's a good battalion right there.
15,000 members of what?
I'm guessing Seminole Boosters, like paying boosters, you know.
Oh, I thought it'd be more than that.
Well, that's what he says. I mean, I'm guessing he's saying the 50 because we got more than 15,000 members.
I mean, there's so many different kinds of levels to boosterdom.
Right.
You know, there's people that give $300 a year and people that give, 30,000 or 50,000 or 100,000. So
there's got to be more than 15,000.
Yeah, I thought there'd be 15,000. I
maybe
thought,
left off a
like
zero.
Atlanta Seminole Boosters is thousands of people just in one city. So I would have thought it'd been more than 15. But either way,
perhaps.
Sure.
Yeah, perhaps in a slow time in May we'll do it or something like that. Next question.
Jerry would be a good person to have on. Jerry started the Osceola maybe the second year, fifth year of Bowden being there. And, he kind of grew up and grew the boosters with Bobby Bowden as the program grew. Obviously, so did Seminole Boosters. It would be really fascinating just to hear him tell, and he's got plenty of stories, believe me, about the early days of Bowden and the early days of Seminole Boosters when it was trying to become an actual big-time program. And it obviously has now, but back in the infancy stages, there's some really good stories he could tell.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll see about that. Let's go to the man who gave us, quite possibly, Florida State's next Hall of Famer. That's Tamorrion Terry. C691027. He's from Ashburn, Georgia. He scouted out Tamorrion Terry, told Michael Langston. Michael Langston ran it up the flagpole, and then Jimbo got Tamorrion Terry for us. So thank you, C691027. Greetings from South Georgia. Shout out to the 229. Softball, 1 week into practice with a major tournament coming up. Will Coach A be invited to discuss Team 36? Also, side note, when will they offer Ryan Fitzgerald, kicker from Colquitt County, already? That sounds like it's somewhat, I don't want to say imminent, but there I go again saying I don't want to say it, then I say it. On the recruiting chat last night with Michael Langston, he did mention that that's obviously a need that they need to pursue because Ricky Aguayo, this is his last season. Can you believe that? He's grown up before our very own eyes, Corey. He'll be gone. This is last year.
It's flown by the second Aguayo. When was the last game that an Aguayo didn't score a point for Florida State? Have to be the Orange Bowl, the Northern Illinois game?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a crazy streak, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's got to be maybe – wouldn't you say that's got to be like the longest streak in college football history?
Of a family continuously scoring?
A family can – so that's what are we looking at? Like
7 seasons?
Years? That's like 78, 80 straight games of one family scoring at least a point. Yeah. That couldn't have ever happened before, could it have, at one school?
I'm trying to think. I can't think of any kicking family except for the Colquitts from Tennessee, but they punt. They don't kick.
Yeah, the Zendejases back in the 80s, but I think they all went to different Pac-10 schools. Yeah. They were Pac-10 back then, folks.
Yep.
I know it's the Pac-12 now.
Even the Pac-8.
There was the Zendejases, but yeah, I would think that you got to be, if they haven't broken a record, they might have broken it 3 years ago. That's going to be my summer project, Aslan, is looking that up.
Okay. I like that. But yeah, as for Coach Almeida, maybe we'll get her on here. Why not?
Sure.
They're national champs, man. National flipping champs. They do deserve more face time than we give them. They'll open up with UMC Wilmington Friday, February 8th, as part of the Joanne Graff Classic. Fan Day will be Saturday, February 2nd, 2 p.m. So put that on the calendar, folks. All right, next question comes from GSL7532. What's up, fellas? I was just wondering, has anybody seen Carlos Becker or got any info on his recovery? If he never plays another down for us, he'll remind me of Keelan Smith. All the measurements, but never contributed. SMH. Shaking my head. Also, how do you guys feel about passing on Shiloh Sanders and him committing to South Carolina? I'd trade him for DeKalen Brooks any day for legacy commits. Well, fortunately, it doesn't work that way. I still think it'd been cool to have him around. Michael mentioned on the recruiting chat, I think they're at 7 defensive back commits or something. Yeah. I mean, it's just there's no room at the inn. It would have been cool just to have Dion seeing him hanging on the sideline a little earlier than planned because his youngest son, Shador, is a quarterback who I think is 2021. So if everything goes well and Willie's still here, Shador will probably be the starting quarterback for Florida State in 2022 or 2023. Would have liked to take him, but I guess it worked out. And it seems like there's no animosity. Obviously, Dion posted the photo with Willie the same day that Shiloh committed to South Carolina and said he still trusts in these guys. They'll get it fixed and things like that. So it's all good.
Yeah, as far as Becker, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll find out in the spring. I don't remember ever seeing him participate in anything. Yeah. Has he played at all?
No, I think he played I think he might have played in the Orange Bowl against Michigan. But since then, I don't think so. I remember I was on my whole crusade about the fact that we were not asking any good questions when we were interviewing the coaches. And I think I asked Harlan about Carlos Becker, and he said something about, you got to be healthy to help us out. Because I asked, something about, can Carlos Becker help you guys out this season? Because I didn't want to be like, is he going to come back, yes or no? It is a bizarre thing. I know he had a foot or ankle problem. He's always walking around in a boot, but golly, I know he relies on speed, but you'd figured that would have been on the mend and healthy by now. But he's one of those guys where I'm sure this spring is kind of, put it together, figure it out, or you might just end up getting lost in the shuffle. But yeah, no updated information on him and his ankle, but perhaps I'll ask that of Willie when we speak to him, hopefully on National Signing Day in a few Wednesdays from now. Next question, Corey, you ready?
I am. I can't wait. Let's do it.
Ronald Bowen, 77. Good morning, men. Last post, I mentioned famous people from my little hometown of Dillon, South Carolina. Aslan reminded me that Kevin Steele is from Dillon, which jogged my memory, too. And I can't believe I forgot the Chief, John Chavis, also hails from here. Also, quick side note to Corey, coming to Atlanta in March to the Benz Center, direct me to a good steak in the general area of the stadium, please.
Of the Penn Center, he says.
The Benz.
In the general area, man, I don't know. I don't spend a ton of time down there in that area anymore. I would say if you're going for like the best steaks in Atlanta, you're looking at Bones,
Longhorn,
Chops,
Outback.
maybe Rathburns is I think most people consider that the best restaurant in Atlanta, but it's not really anywhere near Mercedes-Benz. But Bones and Chops are probably 15 minutes away. Get up there and get you some meat up in you. Ooh, that sounded rough. Just eat some great steak that my fine city has to offer. That's a much better way of saying it.
If you're listening to this and you're an Atlantan, post actually in the thread on the Tribal Council that will have the episode. Go ahead and tag Ronald Bowen, Ronald Bowen 77. Tag him in the thread if you have good suggestions for a nice steak dinner around the Mercedes-Benz Stadium for him, and we'll relay it to him.
There's a Roots Chris. I know that, but that doesn't really count, does it? That's a chain.
On to my question. It seems to the outside eye that we are reloading the offense, but not so much the defense. Do you guys think our defense was really that bad, or was it simply the after effects of young men playing behind a terrible offense and constantly defending short fields? I relate them to an ace pitcher who gets 0 run support and takes the loss for the team. In summary, are we physically and technique-wise, a bad defense, or was that a mental stability issue that we saw worsening as the year progressed in 2018, knowing if they gave up any points, our offense wasn't going to respond? Keep up the good work. Love the show.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the difference between the pitcher and the run support is that, nobody would blame the pitcher if he just gave up 2 runs and lost. But if he gave up 8, and even if you lost 8-0, people wouldn't be like, well, we just got to give the pitcher run support. Well, no, he still gave up 8 runs. I do think that there is something to the mental side of it when the offense is that bad that, whether it should or shouldn't, and obviously it shouldn't, It affects maybe how hard you play, I don't know. They never were put in a good position ever. It seemed like every time they took the field, the offense had just punted from its own 4, and they were having to come to start the game, and then they would have to come in and defend, 42 yards. The other team had the ball at their 42-yard line. They had to have one of the worst field positions in the country, and that does matter. But no, you can't. There aren't excuses for how bad it was, especially late in the season. There just aren't.
I mean, the first drive of the season against Virginia Tech, they got trampled. So I mean, they played from behind because of the defense's fault.
Right
too.
down the field, Adonis Thomas choosing every wrong hole to fill. The whole drive, they got, and that kind of set the tone. Now they did have nice moments. They did have some good games. I thought Miami, they played really well.
Yeah.
But overall, just was, they weren't. They were better than the offense, but marginally. Both of them performed badly.
They did keep Clemson scoreless through a quarter, and that Florida game wasn't that bad at half. So I guess that does,
But doesn't that kind of go into the whole, man, our offense isn't going to score on these guys?
Yeah, I guess.
Now, you'd like for them to not, you're allowed to make plays too. You can strip sack a guy and turn a game around with a defensive play. But, yeah, I think the defense has a chance to be decent. I do think Harlan Barnett knows what he's doing, for sure. I mean, I don't think you could argue that. You got to find a way to get pressure on the quarterback. They just didn't. They had one guy. I bet Florida State as a team had like 100 quarterback pressures on the season, and 69 came from one guy. They've got to figure out a way to get pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, and he's leaving.
He is leaving.
You would wish there was there was no impact player. I mean, there was no just ferocious guy who was just going to beat a double team or come free on a blitz and hit the quarterback. There wasn't any sort of ferociousness, and their whole mantra was fast, physical, and aggressive. And I mean, that defense in the biggest moments of the season didn't play anywhere close to being fast, physical, or aggressive. I would think that if they're going to get another coach on that side of the ball, I find it hard to think that, again, they're just going to be like, all right, we got Kendall Browse, we're good, let's roll. I mean, they still have a spot left to hire a full-time coach. Because they're not going to have Ron Dugans and David Kelly coaching wide receivers, but it would go a long way if they got somebody of substance to help out with the defensive backs, and then maybe another year here of these linebackers. 2 of them will be of Roderick Hoskins quality, which I guess is passable these days. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But it's a fair observation. But I just don't. How do you fix mental weakness? What another session of the chase?
Oh, 15, I wouldn't call these kids mentally weak necessarily.
Well, I'm not as their coach did. Their coach did.
Oh yeah, but for the Clemson game, sure. I just think they're by and large that's just human nature, man. It all works together. When it's in basketball, if you're not making shots on the other end for whatever reason, it affects the way you play defense. It just does. Leonard said that for 15 years now. We let our offense affect our defense, or we let our defense affect our offense, vice versa. It just There's always a way. There's like a symbiotic relationship there, and when when your offense can't do anything, and you always feel like every time you take the field, you're almost rolling your eyes, like, man, can y'all give us a break? Can y'all not punt? Can y'all go put some pressure on them and score some points? I just think that's a natural inclination for someone to, you don't want to. It's just part of how the brain works. I don't know that you overcome that except by scoring points on offense. Like, I think even the 2013 defense, if they had to play with the 2018 offense, they would have been good, but they wouldn't have been best in the country. It just impacts the way you play. It impacts the way you take the field. You agree with that or not?
For sure. I think, you play with a sort of freedom when you know that your offense has got Jameis Winston. They're capable of scoring points. You can pin your ears back. You can maybe take a couple more chances. I mean, I haven't gone back and looked at the tape, but I bet you that second half, I mean, the whole pick with PJ and LaMarcus, who got the pick? Was it PJ and then LaMarcus got the fumble?
In the Auburn game?
Yeah.
Yeah, PJ intercepted it and then fumbled.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they started seeing stuff and they started jumping routes more. They knew they had to take chances, and if they were going to get beat on it, they're just going to turn into a shootout, and maybe that'd be the way they would win. But I think there's no path to victory for this team, and that would weigh on the defense for sure. But we'll see. Like Corey said, maybe that's the quickest way to fix this is just the offense plays a little bit better. Muck Knoll, next question. Good morning, fellas. I'm from Irwin, Tennessee. It's my hometown, which is also the hometown of former Pirate, Padre, and Yankee pitcher Eddie Whitson. Bet you didn't know that one. In addition to pitching in a World Series with the Padres, he's also well known for kicking manager Billy Martin's rear end in an off-field scuffle when he was with the Yankees. Well, that's good. That's a good.
Yeah. Okay.
Good side note. Now to my question. By the way, Mucknoll also his join date is also September 11th, 2001. So it must be some sort of bug in the system there.
Or not. Mucknoll, if that's not the case, again, I'll reiterate, if you did actually join War Chant on September 11th, 2001, please let us know why, like what led to that.
Yeah. His question, why is Telly Lockett never seemingly mentioned as being on the proverbial chopping block? He's supposedly this renowned recruiter, particularly in the 305, but as far as I can tell, he ain't recruited jack. If I were Taggart, I would tell this former high school coach to go and stand with Gonzo Hampton in the unemployment line and make Fry the tackles and tight end segment coach. What's your take, fellas? I'll go first, Corey. You want me to?
Sure, yeah, go for it.
Well, if you like Dante Lucas is that's all Telly Lockett. Telly Lockett, I think, had a relationship with the Lucas family from a young age and kind of helped mentor him because Lucas, while he did play at IMG Academy, is from Miami, from the 305. So that's a direct connection there in terms of getting him on board Florida State. He does love Taggart. He loves what Willie's trying to build, but Lockett's what opens the door for him. I think there's more than just being the direct conduit to a player. I think the fact that he did coach down at Miami Central High School has to get them a leg up in terms of knowing what players are rising in that region of the state to know who they got to focus on. And I mean, he coached tight ends. What can you really do to coach tight ends to get you fired unless your tight end fumbles the ball 5 times in crucial situations? Trey McKitty actually played pretty okay. Nasir Upshur's actually wasn't that bad. I think he was one of the highest graded pass protectors according to PFF, but for whatever reason never could get on the field. That's neither here nor there. I like Telly. I mean, if you had to, if they were throwing guys off an island, there was only a certain amount of room on a boat, I'd probably put him ahead of Pimpleton personally. But no, Telly's worth his weight, man. He's doing all right. I got no bones to pick with him.
Yeah, but as he said, the main role for Telly Lockett, really any tight ends coach, man. I mean, it's just not a big. It's not a how many catches, how many balls did a tight end catch this year? 25 out of like 900 plays. I mean, I know they're involved in more stuff, but it's not a position where you need a great
tactician,
X's and O's guy. That position on a staff is mainly to recruit. Tim Brewster was the tight ends coach and the recruiting coordinator. Odell Hagen's first job at Florida State was as a tight ends coach. Tell me what that dude knew about tight ends.
Yeah.
He's a 280-pound defensive tackle, and he's coaching tight ends. There's not a lot to – I don't want to be that dismissive, but Telly Lockett's on the staff, number one, because he has a history with Willie, and, yeah, number two, for recruiting, specifically in that area. I mean, he coached Devontae Freeman and Dalvin Cook, right? He definitely coached Freeman.
Yeah.
And he has connections down there in Miami, man, with the Optimist clubs. You've got to have connections down there, and you've got a guy too now with Dugans, I would imagine, who have their tentacles in that Optimist club. When these kids are 13 and 14 and 15, they know who they are coming up, and they start relationships then. That's invaluable.
Yeah.
And yes, it hasn't really paid off with a pipeline of Miami kids coming to Florida State, but it gets you in the door with those kids. And again, Bobby Bowden said it way back in the 90s. Like, the best city for high school players in the country is Miami. And Florida State has had a lot of really good players come from that city. You've got to concentrate on that area of the state. And Telly Lockett, again, you've got a guy that was a head coach down there, right? He definitely was the running backs coach or the OC with Miami Central.
He was head coach at Miami Central, and they won 2, I think, titles.
And he was Devontae Freeman's coach years ago. So again, I think that's invaluable, and I think you have to give it more than one recruiting cycle to really see the dividends that he can pay off.
Yeah. And if you look at it right now, they got 3 kids. If you don't count, if you count Lucas, 4 guys that are from the Miami area, but that Malcolm Ray kid, who folks say is the best defensive player in Dade County, from Carroll City, Jarvis Brownlee, who's a 4-star cornerback, and Maurice Smith, who actually was a center at Miami Central and was committed to Boston College, and they flipped him. I mean, I'm sure those are all guys that Telly Lockett knew of, know their coaches, knew somebody in those families. So, yeah, not 5-star guys, but they'll get to it. They just got to start stacking some wins. Speaking of recruiting, this is actually a good segue. We're going to bring in Michael Langston right after this to give us an update on how recruiting's going. Really big official visit weekend. He'll break it down right after this here on Wake Up War Chant.
You're listening to Wake Up War Chant, low-carb beer for the Seminole soul. Back to Aslan and Corey.
All right, welcome back, everybody. As teased in the previous segment, let's bring in recruiting guru. It's not on his business card, but he is a guru. WarChant.com recruiting analyst and Rivals.com analyst Michael Langston joining us here on Wake Up War Chant. Michael, it's nitty-gritty time. 2 final weekends before signing day. How important is this coming weekend? I guess before we get to who's going to be here, just how important is this for maintaining and building this 2019 class?
Well, I think it's crucial. I mean, you have a double-digit official visit weekend. This weekend's a very big weekend, so I think it's crucial to see, try to get started on get things cranked up again with the offensive line, finish off the linebackers, get you a quarterback. So I think there's a lot of things that FSU certainly wants to accomplish in what will be a big weekend.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some of the guys. I don't want to limit you to a number. You don't have to sit here and list everybody. That's for the subscribers of WarChant.com. Use the promo code WarChant30 to join the family and get the latest on everything involving Florida State. Some of the guys, you want to start with some positions. Obviously, we know offensive line's a big deal, but who are some of the guys that you're really interested in talking to after they wrap up their official visit to see where they stand with Florida State?
Well, I think the main one everyone wants to hear about is Lance Legedry. I mean, if I said that right, but I think everyone got a pronunciation class as far as that on PRB. But I think he's kind of a guy I want to see what he says. If he jumps on board, which is certainly possible. Anytime you get a quarterback, that's a big plus as far as momentum in your class. So I think that's a guy I want to hear from. And then obviously the number one, probably one they want to hear about is offensive line. I think they have 3 coming in this weekend. I think Darius Washington out of West Florida, he's likely to come in. We already know about the other 2, and Ira Henry and Kamar Bell. Kamar, there's a little work to do, but he's always told me that FSU's the offer that he's always wanted, and it's close to home, 45 minutes away. So I'm interested to see what he has to say. And then with Ira Henry, I really think that's a guy, if you're looking for one guy that could pop, even though he named Auburn his leader last week, he's kind of backed off that now and said, oh, well, I don't really have a leader. So I kind of want to see what these guys have to say. So those 2 positions kind of intrigue me as far as what can come out of the visit, because you can gain a lot of momentum. And then I'm also interested in the kicker. I've really been interested. I know that kickers get love too. Giving kickers a little love. Ryan Fitzgerald from over there in Colquitt County. He's one of the best kickers in the country. Is he going to get his offer? I think if he gets his offer, he's going to be in this class. And then I think overall numbers, I think you're looking at probably 13 official visitors this weekend, and then 3 other unofficial visitors. Kalen Deloach, Curtis Fan, they're both signed. They're going to come over here and help FSU. And then 2020 offensive lineman from Madison County, Zane Herring, is going to be here, to take an unofficial visit. So it's going to be a busy weekend for the staff to, kind of control all this madness as far as all these guys visiting. And then I'm interested to see how much buzz and obviously how many commitments they can come out of this weekend to kind of get this thing cranked up, because the last 2 weekends are vital for what FSU is going to add to this class.
Michael Langston, WarChant.com recruiting analyst, joining us here on Wake Up War Chant. Do we know who else is in the mix for Lance Legendre or Leger or however we'll just call him Lance, everybody. He's like a Brazilian soccer player, just going to go by one name. Who else, I guess, is in the mix there for Florida State, or do you feel it's one of those things where if Florida State can just hit a home run on this hire and get that 10 out of 10, they'll probably get his signature come February?
Well, he has a tentative visit set for Miami the following weekend, but I think you just alluded to it that I think if FSU does everything they're supposed to do, can gain a commitment, I don't think he even takes that visit, and we'll see where it goes from there. Obviously, throughout this whole process, you've heard is there grade concerns and stuff like that. We haven't had 100% confirmation just on what that is or if he's good to go, but that would kind of be somewhat telling to me if he wasn't able to commit or he didn't commit that maybe they want to see him finish a few things before they take it. But I don't think there's a team that really is threatening them right now. I think Lance, in my opinion, has always had FSU on his mind, and this is a team that he's always liked. And I think as long as they do what they need to do, I think that's where he wants to be. And we'll see if Lance follows through what I'm hearing as far as how he feels about FSU. But I think right now I'm just waiting to see what he says after the visit, commitment, obviously, or just kind of where things stand and kind of get more answers on, different things with his recruitment after the visit.
Doubling back to the offensive line, I pulled up the profile of Kamar Bell, obviously from Moultrie, and then Ira Henry from St. Louis, Missouri. Both guys, good size, looks like. Kamar Bell 6'3", 317. Ira Henry 6'5", 298. They're both three-star prospects. They're listed as guards. I know a lot of people think we need tackles. Florida State needs tackles. But are these two guys that are must gets, or would Florida State take both of these guys, or is it a one or other sort of proposition for the Noles?
I think they would take both of them. I think one they can take as a guard, the other they can take as a center. I think both of them can play the center position. They do want two centers in this class. They already have Maurice Smith signed from Miami Central, so I think they really want to address that center position because there's not a lot there. They want to make sure that they're comfortable there at the center position, and both of these guys can play that. Now, Henry can play tackle as well, so it's not a done deal that he would just be a guard. I mean, he can certainly play tackle. I've seen him play there. That's a position he's played before, so that's something we'll probably have to ask Ira, what position did they mainly talk to you about, and kind of go from there. But I mean, his main positions, I think, is center and guard. And then with Kamar Bell, he can kind of do the same thing. He is strictly an inside guy, Kamar, for sure. But Ira's there's talk that he could play tackle as well. But I think a lot of their tackles, in my opinion, are going to come from either JUCO or grad transfers because FSU wants to make sure they don't miss on this position. They want to make sure they have two or three guys that not just can come in, but can come in and help them right away, and that's what they need help with, right away solutions. Still have, from the last class, you have Jalen Goss, you have Christian Armstrong, who are also tackles. So keep that in mind. I think people sometimes forget about these guys, that they're already there, that they've had a year in the system, gone through the strength conditioning program and everything, so they're going to be ready to compete next year. But that's how I kind of think, as far as your question, that's kind of where I think things stand right now.
Last question, a little bit of an odd one, but it came from one of our listeners on the podcast, Michael. They wanted to kind of know about what's the deal with Telly Lockett. They feel like, they hear about how great of a recruiter Telly Lockett's supposed to be, but maybe he hasn't pulled in the players they're expecting. Just how valuable – I don't want to put words in your mouth. How would you assess Telly Lockett as a recruiter for Florida State? And maybe how important or what sort of role he plays for Florida State when it comes to recruiting South Florida?
Well, I think he's vital, and I think you look at it, they got one of the best defensive players in the Dade County, and Malcolm Ray. They were able to flip Jarvis Brownlee from Miami, a 4-star DB, and they got Rivals 100 Dante Lucas, who's originally from Miami. So I think they're doing fairly well there. Yeah, they could be better. But 5-7 season tends to have that effect on that area in the Miami area. Now what they have to do is improve their product. But I'm not that worried at all about Telly. And I didn't even mention Maurice Smith, who they flipped from Boston College, the center. I mean, Telly was the main reason for that. So there's several guys that he's had his hand in as far as helping a lot with, and I think Telly's a solid addition for them. He's going to be big for them, but at the same time, they got to help their own cause and show it on the field too, to really magnify what Telly can bring to to the pieces. I mean, Kelly's one of the most popular guys in Dade County, so he's a guy everyone knows, everyone respects a lot, and everyone has high praise for. So he's not a guy that I'm that worried about as far as recruiting. He brings a lot to that table.
All that information, only the tip of the iceberg of what Michael Langston knows when it comes to Florida State recruiting. Check out all of his work on the premium recruiting board on warchant.com. Again, use the promo code warchant30 to check out the latest. Michael, hey, man, I'll be around this weekend. Don't kill yourself. If you need help with some interviews, man, give me a holler. I can come help out.
No, we're gonna do that. I'm definitely probably gonna take you up on that. I'll email you later. But
all right,
we'll talk about that. But we're ready to get going on Sunday and get this going.
Sounds good, man. He's Michael Langston. We'll be right back after this.
You're listening to Wake Up War Chant, all Noles, every day. Now back to Corey and Aslan.
All right, welcome back. Thanks again to Michael Langston for sharing some knowledge. One of the things he mentioned on the recruiting chat, we'll get back to the questions here, Corey, the other night was he kind of admitted that this class is, meet some needs, get some guys, change the culture kind of stuff. But 2020 needs to be a year where they go back into the deep waters and start getting elite recruits. Because they got some good kids that are committed, really probably good character, high football IQ kind of guys that you need to have as a part of the foundation to get this thing turned around. But you still need really fast players, really tall players, really strong players, the elite guys. They're not really competing with many of them right now, but they've got to in 2020. So, hopefully the 9 wins that you said would be successful will be enough to get it done.
By the way, speaking of committing and competing and recruiting, the Florida State women's basketball team has 3 McDonald's All-Americans.
Nice. Get you some.
They just released the McDonald's All-American teams on Thursday, and Sue's got 3 McDonald's All-Americans in this recruiting class after having 2 last year, I think. So I think next year Florida State's going to have like 7 former McDonald's All-Americans on their team, or 6.
Bring it, UConn. Bring it.
Yeah, UConn only has 1.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Rookie baby. Hi, Corey and Aslan. Wake up! Thanks for providing great content. The offseason doesn't seem so bad with you guys around. Well, thank you.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
So I know we were all super excited that 12 decided to return to Florida State. Sarcasm font. But in reality, if Francois stays, beats out James Blackman to become the starter again, wouldn't that just mean that maybe he is better than James Blackman? As Corey mentioned, this would be essentially the 3rd different coach or OC that chose Francois over Blackman. That can't be a coincidence, right? I, for one, am pulling for Blackman in this scenario, and I hope he shows that he is a different kind of skinny. Thanks. Represent Knoll Nation. Well, it wouldn't be 3rd, would it? I mean,
technically, yeah.
You can't count Jimbo. Come on.
Taggart.
He was a true freshman. Well, that counts?
Sure.
All right.
Sure. I mean, theoretically, yeah, it does.
I mean, even Tua didn't even start over Jalen Hurts as a true freshman. James Blackman was supposed to start over DeAndre Francois?
Well, no, but if James Blackman obviously was clearly better than Francois a month into knowing the system,
come on.
Yes, I mean, it was not much of a quarterback competition. Obviously, Francois was the unquestioned starter, but still, he was second string. Jimbo had him second string. Taggart had him second string. And if Bryles has him second string, even if you just go with Taggart and Bryles and eliminate Jimbo,
right? Yeah,
it would still be 2 straight QB coaches, offensive coordinator types that chose Francois over Blackman. So, yeah.
Dude, somebody posted some really damning stats on Francois, the amount of touchdowns and picks he's thrown versus Power 5 and non-Power 5 competition, but I don't have those in front of me right now.
Yeah, there's not – he hasn't – I think –
Well, here's the thing. We've seen it. We've seen what's so frustrating is that, okay, Francois is better than James Blackman. Let's exist under that premise. By how much, though? I mean, it's not like a sizable – like James Blackman's not coming out there getting, delay of games every other series because he doesn't know what to call. He's not out there, putting guys in bad spots, getting them lit up over the middle, or not shifting protections over correctly and getting his face buried into the grass. I mean, whoever's back there is getting knocked on their rear end. That's what's frustrating, is that it seems like I will give them benefit of the doubt. DeAndre's better, but by how much and at what point, despite the fact that you say it's not his fault, do you just try to get a spark in the midst of a disastrous season to fix something? And I know the red shirt's being used as some sort of valuable token in the development of James Blackman, but it just seemed like, I don't know, maybe I just said it right there. If they're both fairly the same, then why waste James Blackman's red shirt? Because it won't get that much better. But I don't know. It seemed like they looked significantly better against NC State. And everyone says, well, they have a horrible secondary. Well, Florida State's really not in the mode right now to get all picky about who looks what against what kind of competition, especially when it was on the road against a top 25 team. That was just bizarre. We'll never know the answer. Maybe we will, but as of right now, we don't know the answer. But yes, we can exist under the premise that maybe, just maybe, DeAndre Francois is better than James Blackman enough that he deserves 12 games of going out there and not looking all that effective.
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll see. We'll be talking about this, at least for the next 4 months, maybe for the next 12 months. Who knows? We will see. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Captain D _63. Wake up, listeners. We have been hearing we could hire 1 or 2 more coaches after recruiting with Clements and a DB coach. Do you believe Coach Taggart will make a big splash in these coaches, or will it be a ho-hum type of coach? He's got 2 questions. Let's go with that one first, I guess. I'm trying to actually want to see if Wesley McGriff is still out there. I think he is. I haven't seen anything about Wesley McGriff getting hired. Despite the fact that his resume is a little bit tattered and torn, I mean, it would be a guy that has defensive coordinator experience, a guy who was in the NFL. Now, in neither of those stops did he put up any sort of impressive resistance in the secondary. But it's another voice that's been in a couple firefights that's valuable. So you could call that, I don't know if that's ho-hum. I mean, what would be a big splash? I think T-Buck is what we all think and hope, but I don't know how practical that is. And I don't know, at some point, this Clemens thing, it's not going to happen at some point. I mean, if it's supposed to be happening for so long, I just can't imagine how much chicken is being played between Houston and Florida State to get the contract done, because –
and it's only for a few. I mean, I say only, but it's like for a few $100,000.
Yeah.
Again, you're not talking about trying to buy out, Jimbo's contract, life-altering money. You're talking about a few $100,000. It's really odd. I'm certainly not privy to what's going on with those negotiations or contract talks, but it's bizarre.
Yeah.
This was reported 3 weeks ago that this guy was coming with Bryles, and still nothing.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, second question, baseball related. How good can this pitching staff be this year, and do we have any power hitters this season? Thanks, guys. Awesome show. Look forward every day to listening to you. Have a great day if you want to.
Yeah, so if they stay healthy, which is always a big deal in baseball, certainly a big deal on pitching staffs. Parrish and Van Eyck, whatever I can't ever remember how to say
Van
it. Give you one of the best 1-2 combos in the country. I mean, Parrish is awesome, despite the last pitch he threw last season. Which was not his fault. I mean, it was. Still came out of his hand, but anyway. And Van Eyck is awesome. Van Eyck's a really good pitcher, man. I think they have one of the best 1-2 combos in the country. I think both of those guys, if they, keep getting better and perform well, could both be in the major leagues one day. So you have that going for you. Power hitters, you got Mendoza, who needs to have a nice year. It's a money year for him. He was just okay last year. But if you watch him in batting practice, it is ridiculous. They look like tee shots. I mean, it's nuts. So you have Mendoza, you have Reese Albert, who has crazy power too. And then the name to keep an eye on, Aslan, is Elijah Cabell.
Yes.
Cabell.
Elijah.
Meat has told me that the ball goes to places off his bat that you just don't see. The ball really jumps off his bat. He has got crazy power. Like apparently some of the best power this program has ever had. He's a freshman, so obviously there will be some struggles. But with Mendoza, Cabell, and Alberts, you got some pop, man. You got pop, and those 2 pitchers. What I worry about with Florida State is the bullpen, specifically closer are late inning guys. I don't know who that's going to be, and they need to figure that out. That, quite frankly, I said it again. Quite frankly, that's why Parrish was out there last year to give up that game-winning home run, was because they didn't trust their bullpen. They've got to find somebody they can trust to get 3 or 6 outs.
Maybe that'll be your show on ACC Network. And now time for, quite frankly, here's Corey Clark.
There you go.
What's up,
that's
everybody?
Perfect. Yeah. And you're my producer. You just passed the test. You just passed the audition.
Boom, get you some. I think the bullpen will be okay just because they threw so many kids out there last year that were young, were freshmen, and just that 1 year wiser, just knowing how to kind of maintain their body and what they have to do to be successful. I'm optimistic. Again, I think you got like Kwiatkowski, you got Scalaro, you got Connor Grady, those kind of guys that will give you middle relief. I am a little bit concerned about, I guess, a closer per se. They'll figure it out, though, man. They always do. Well, they always don't, but still, they'll win 40 games. We'll go to regional.
And Austin Pollock, they would certainly like him to take another big step, because he started out well last year against the not great teams, but when he got in ACC, he got pummeled pretty good. But he's got nice stuff. He's a lefty with a really good changeup, throws low 90s. He needs to figure it out too, and maybe be the third guy in the rotation, or a guy they can use a couple times a weekend out of the pen.
Yep.
A lot of stuff for them to figure out. And they had a really, really good recruiting class coming in, which is pretty remarkable considering theoretically nobody knows who their coach is going to be next year.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And they still landed all these guys knowing that Mike Martin's leaving, and not knowing, at least officially, who their coach will be the next 2 years of their careers. Anyway.
Let's go tempo. Ubernol, Corey, Aslan, do you think we could get the students at the TLC-CC to cheer, "I don't think you're ready for Cabangeli, I don't think you're ready for Cabangeli," Beyonce style, when he gets called off the bench? I feel like I channeled my inner Corey Clark when I thought of it. That's a good one. I want to be bad.
That is a good one, but what I guess I'm not familiar enough with Beyonce's work.
It's bootylicious. I don't think you're ready for this jelly. I don't think you're ready for this jelly, because my body's so bootylicious for you, baby.
Oh, all right. Okay. That's not bad. That's actually, and especially because he does come off the bench.
There you go.
So you'd have it's not like the game is starting and you're cheering that.
Yep.
You're singing that as he gets off the bench and starts walking to the scores table. I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm all for, the students trying to get that going.
Let's shoot for the stars who might land on the moon. I like it, Ubernol. I like it a lot. Kurt OFD78. Wake up. Greetings, gentlemen. I always enjoy the show. You guys do a great job. Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate that. Writing to you from Oviedo, Florida, home of many great people. That includes Blake Bortles, FAU quarterback Jason Driscoll, MLB player Mark Bellhorn, and all-around awesome guy Lump Boston. I hope that's not a naughty joke. My question is referencing a thread on the Tribal Council about the program, talking about the team or certain team members who quit during the program. Folks, the program is apparently a military leadership course. It's like a team building thing, not the program as in the football program. The program is a leadership
or
and
the
toughness.
1993 movie starring James Caan.
Yes, and Joe Kane. Although I don't know what Joe Kane's real name is. The program is a leadership and toughness building process developed by many former military leaders. Francois has talked about being the main offender. Can you comment on this? As if there's any truth to it, it foreshadows the season we had and makes it clear that Blackman should be the starter over Francois next season. Thank you and keep up the great work. Yeah, man, I don't know.
What was the first part?
Basically, just do we know did he skip on classes? Did he show up late? Did he quit? Did the team quit the program? I mean, that's something I think the Coach Almeida and the softball team is going through. I think several different of the teams at Florida State have actually undergone. But apparently they maybe didn't complete the entire course. I don't know if it was a one-day thing, if it was a 2-week thing. Yeah, I don't know. I think somebody, a member posted on the Tribal Council allegedly that maybe Francois showed up late one day, but I don't know if that's true or not, and I can't even find that thread, and everybody references it, and nobody ever quotes it or pulls it up. So, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things you can maybe fuss on DeAndre Francois about that are actually tangible, real things. I don't know if this is one of them. I just don't. Sorry.
Yeah, and we don't want to speculate on something that we have no really idea about. Rumors and innuendo and everything. If Willie Taggart came out and said, yeah, DeAndre missed one of the classes or was late, sure, but I don't know if we want to speculate on that when it's not true, or we don't really quite even know what it is that he missed or what he's being accused of missing or being late to. So either way, there's a lot of stuff already in his past where people want Blackman to be the quarterback. So wouldn't that just be another,
dare I say, a dodgy dossier? Anywho, next question. Knowles MG4. Good morning. My favorite podcast, gentlemen. Just a few questions for you. Oh, that's cool. Just a few. I mean,
all right. Well, all right. Here we go. Let's get it.
Whole bunch of them. All right. I'm originally from Fort Walton Beach, home of the great E.G. Green and Danny Werfel. He typed in cough, cough.
Yep.
But I grew up in Live Oak, Florida, home of Matt and Todd Fryer and Andre Davis. My question's for Corey. Corey, since you've been around FSU for so long, how are you not a fan?
Okay, I'll take that. So, I would equate it to, for 2 weeks in high school, I worked at a McDonald's, and I grew up loving McDonald's. Well, obviously every kid, when they're 12 and 10, they love Big Macs and eating at McDonald's. And then you go work in the kitchen for 2 weeks, and you're like, man, I don't know that I want to eat here anymore. Now, that's not to say I don't eat at McDonald's anymore. In fact, I just ate a couple days ago there. But for a while, I went without being a fan of McDonald's. And I think when you see how the sausage is made, also, you really do. You can turn that muscle off. Like, I grew up a really big fan of Florida State. I went to games, but being a journalist really kind of overrode that. And I was able to just kind of tamp that down. It doesn't mean I root for Florida State to lose, obviously, but I really do go into games not really caring, unless it's like, I'll be honest, I wanted Florida State to beat Michigan last year in the Elite Eight because I wanted to go cover a Final Four.
Yep.
But it wasn't like I was sad that my team lost. I was sad for me personally that I didn't get to go see a Final Four. And what does happen, though, to stray away from the McDonald's analogy, is when you cover a team, I don't really have a relationship with Willie Taggart right now, so I can't really use him, but hopefully I will. We're not enemies or anything. He's just only been here for a year. But with someone like Leonard, who I've been covering pretty closely now for 11 or 12 years, and his staff, you root for them to have success. And you do root for the players that you like to do well. But you don't get really crushed when they lose. Do you know what I mean? Like that, I was able, especially when I worked at, now that I work at War Chant, I don't think it's a huge deal if I openly admit that, I wanted Florida State to beat Michigan. But when you're a reporter at a mainstream, quote unquote, news organization, they really don't want you to admit that you're a fan or you're rooting this way or that way. And I really did, because I've been doing it now for 21 years. You kind of lose that part. You do lose that muscle. Like I've gone to some Georgia football games and try to be a fan, and it's weird. It's weird to cheer like that. So anyway, I guess that's not really an answer, but you are able to at least, maybe you don't erase it completely, but you really can kind of,
Well, you got to be a big boy. This is our job. You can't get all crazy and emotional. Like I went to the Georgia Tech game in 2015 with the block field goal, and dude, I was an absolute monster to be around that night. But I'm over these things. I mean, I sat in the box and I watched Florida neuter us, and I went home to my girlfriend and watched Jimbo Fisher win in 7 overtimes, and my life was okay. You just learn to turn things off.
Yeah, I think you're still in the stages of having it go away. Also, again, we work at War Chant, so it's a little different than working at again the Democrat or USA Today, where you're supposed to be completely neutral and objective. That's not to say I can't be objective. I think, quite frankly, golly, she was right. I think that when you grow up a fan of a team and then you start covering that team, it can be weird because I do think sometimes maybe I'm too objective. Like, I'm too cynical, and maybe I need to, curb that a little bit. But overall, man, I stopped being a Florida State fan, 2007 when I started covering them. And I really did. Like
in the loose sense, he still wants to see the team be successful. It's good for I shouldn't say financially, like personally, it's in our best interest that Florida State does well. More folks are interested. More folks want to listen to the podcast. More people want to read Corey's things. Why would Corey want to do awesome columns and articles on a team that's losing all the time and not doing more upbeat things and having as many people read it as possible? Yeah, it's in our best interest for Florida State to do well. We would like to see them be successful, but ultimately, yeah, I mean, we're not emotionally invested.
But I will say, so when I wrote the column about Bryles being hired,
I'm trying to get us out of this question. We have more.
This just occurred to me real quick. So when I wrote the column about Bryles being hired, I think I did write that coming from a place of being a Florida State fan for the first 30 years of my life. I was writing that more as a fan and knowing other fans than I was as a straight, objective, completely neutral observer. Anyway.
The guy's name is Sam Silla. His first name is Sam, and his last name is Sila or Silla. He apparently is the guy who runs the program. Ira did a large story on them August 3rd of last year about the program. He's the guy that runs the program, the military training thing. He's an Iraq vet. There's nothing in here that shows any sort of disharmony or anything like that. So, yeah, I don't know where that stuff comes from. Also, his question was, I would like to ask you guys, what do you feel is the real process as far as attitude, discipline, structure, etc.? Thanks for the morning vibe. It's better than coffee.
There you go. Nice. That should be our catchphrase.
Yeah. The vibe. It's better than coffee. Yeah, that's the thing that people say, well, you got to give Willie time. And I understand. But I don't, again, we've said it so many times. He said it. I don't think anybody braced for the way this team was going to look in 2018. I really don't think any of that was part of the process. I don't think part of the process of him changing things around here was to get stomped out by Clemson and 2 weeks in a row surrendering the most points since 1971 or whatever it was. I don't know I really don't know, man. I think he's probably going to have to pivot off some of the things that he thought was going to be part of his process because it was going to be easy. We're going to come in here. It's going to be lethal simplicity. We're going to make things easier. These guys were brain locked by all the things they had to think of, and we're going to wrap our arms around them, and we're going to love them up, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to go out there. We're going to play really spirited football for our brother, the guy next to us. We're going to play for the love of the fight, not for the hate of the fight, and we're going to do great. Didn't work out that
brother.
way. I think you can probably you don't have to do a full philosophical change, but maybe part of the process now is you bring in really renowned coordinators and you bring in really renowned assistant coaches to help out with your coordinator, maybe on defense. You take a hands off and you become the spiritual guy. Like you're the guy that can now put you can tap more into the mental aspect, the emotional aspect, the psychology of your players, and maybe foster more of that love, the brotherhood stuff that you're probably not able to do as much of when you're calling the plays on game day and you're more worried. Maybe you're not trusting your offensive coordinator. You're paying this guy $1 million a year. You're not going to have to worry about things nearly as much when it comes to day-to-day stuff, and especially on Saturdays, and maybe that gives you a different vision of things, and you can tweak and pivot and do what you need to. But yeah, I don't really know what the secret sauce is for them, but it's going to have to be something different than what they put out there last year.
I would say part of the process is not blocking people in the back on kickoff returns.
Okay.
Having 11 men on the field, not 12, not 10. But always starting every play with 11 guys on the field. Okay. That to me is the part of the process that needs to be learned immediately. Yep. Everything else falls into place after that. And realistically, in all seriousness, the culture has to change. That's the biggest part of the process. And that means, the stuff you're doing in April, the stuff you're doing in August, that's where the process takes effect, where you realize how you win and how you lose. You hope, if this was part of the process, and I agree with you, nobody thought 59-10 was anywhere a part of the process, but it tells them what not to do and how much better they need to get. It was certainly a slap in the face, so you hope they don't get slapped in the face again.
It does seem like they've got good guys, though. Like I'm not talking about ability-wise, but I think Dickerson and Minshew are guys that are going to be able to get on redshirt freshman offensive linemen and get them better. I think Tamorrion Terry hates losing. He's somebody that you can look at and grow from. I think Cam Akers absolutely wants to get out of Dodge and go play NFL football ASAP, and it's nothing against Florida State. It's just part of his life plan. Stanford Samuels probably doesn't like the way he went out against Florida last year. Levante Taylor knows he's got to play his rear end off if he wants to accomplish the dreams that he's had ever since he was a kid. Marvin Wilson's in that same boat. Dontavius Jackson's in that same boat. I mean, I don't know if these guys couldn't find a voice, but if those guys have a voice, those are supposed to be your best players. And if they play as hard as they talked about things last year, and now they know how to get things done, that's got to be a good sign. When your best players are your best leaders, good things tend to happen. That was really cheesy. NoldDad84, good morning, gentlemen. Wake up. Just saw Aslan's post the other day on Browse's contract, and apparently he's also the associate head coach. Since Florida State is now giving away titles, what, if any, title would you anoint yourself as? I'm thinking Corey should be senior associate of letters and Aslan senior director of motion graphics. Keep up the great work.
I am already senior writer, which is a wonderful title, even though Ira's older than me, substantially, significantly older than me. But he's the managing editor. So he should be senior managing editor, and I should just be managing editor.
Okay.
But yeah, as far as a title, I senior writer's about right with me. God is probably a little too much.
Whoa, hey.
I like a writing God. I don't mean God as in like the all being, it's lowercase g.
Right on.
But like journalistic God, that's probably a little too much. I'm still a little too young, but maybe in like 4 or 5 years, that'd probably be my byline, right?
Yeah. I'll take
agree or disagree because
I agree.
I'm in so many platforms. It's not just columns and news stories. It's a podcast, 2 podcasts. It's my Twitter feed, which is incredible. All that stuff kind of makes me a journalistic God.
Maybe like director of creative writing or doctor of column.
I mean, again, I feel like were you not listening to the last 30 seconds? Sorry. We just came up with the title.
All right. Big Steve-O, 22, last one. Morning, fellas. Love the show. Pretty much like everyone on here, you guys make the commute to work enjoyable. Keep up the good work. Appreciate all the kind words. Keep going to work every day, guys and girls. Keep this economy stimulated so we can live great lives.
And this isn't flippant. I mean this because I have my best friend works in the federal government, is currently in a shutdown. If you are one of those people, we feel for you. I hope this gets figured out very soon because it's pretty ridiculous. And I really do feel bad for my fellow countrymen that they're out of work.
Well, they're not out of work. They're just not getting paid or they're at home on furlough.
But I guess semantics.
They'll get back pay. I was born and raised in the Daleville, Fort Rucker area, which is the birthplace of our favorite Mickey Andrews and the hometown of NFL fullback journeyman Tony Richardson. Yeah, man, Daleville stand-up. I think actually Charles Kelly's dad, if I'm not mistaken, actually coached Levon Kelly. I think he actually coached at Daleville. They're the Warhawks.
Tony Richardson was a legit player. He was a good NFL player.
Daleville's not too far from Dothan. We had to cover their athletic programs. Anyhow, I have been living in Huntsville, Alabama for the last 17 years. There are plenty notable people from here, maybe not born but relocated. They include Werner von Braun, German rocket scientist who led the way for the U.S. in the rocket and space technology sector, and NFL Hall of Famer John Stallworth. My family
is that why Space Camp is in Huntsville?
Yeah. It's Rocket City.
I've always wondered that. Like, what is the connection between space and Alabama?
Yeah, they call it Rocket City, Huntsville.
I know. It's weird.
Yeah. My family's from Thomasville, which we all know is home to the great Charlie Ward. Sorry that was long-winded, but my question to you guys is, we have had many quarterback battles here at Florida State University, but which one did you guys enjoy covering or following the most? Thanks. Go Noles. Hey, Xavier Lee, Drew Weatherford. That was the most ugly, rock'em sock'em, day-to-day, petty malarkey ever. Like the Jameis thing to me, like I checked out on the team in 12. Yeah, they beat Clemson, but then they lost to Florida. Thought Jimbo was never going to get over the hump. People are talking about this redshirt freshman is going to be really whatever. It's going to be tricky. There's no way a redshirt freshman is going to be able to play in this exotic, crazy, quadratic equation offense that Jimbo Fisher runs. So I was emotionally bruised, but I was still in it, man. 2005, I was in it. I was still emotionally invested, 5-star kid from Daytona Seabree, setting all sort of records, laser shows. Why isn't he not playing over Drew Weatherford? This is a conspiracy. Yeah, that was the best one, man. It was horrible. I regret every minute of it.
My answer is I would probably say the Golson Smag.
Okay.
Was just no. I'm kidding. There, I don't think we ever. I don't remember ever talking to Everett Golson. I guess we did it one time. I just don't remember ever talking to that kid.
Yeah.
Anyway, back when I first joined War Chant, which must have been 2001. Now that I think about it, I think there was a legitimate quarterback competition between Chris Ricks and Anquan Bolden.
Fabian Walker was Fabian Walker.
No, but I think it was Anquan. I think Anquan and Chris Ricks were vying to be the starting quarterback. I'm almost positive.
Yeah,
and then, because I remember a quote where they finally decided, you know what, we got to move Anquan to wide receiver because we don't have any wide receivers that can make plays. And then Bobby Bowden's quote was like, yeah, we started looking like a Florida State offense again when Anquan moved to wide receiver. And then I think he blew his knee out. So it didn't end up mattering anyway. But that's just the thought of like, what if Anquan had been the quarterback? Because he was fun to watch in that Sugar Bowl for a half. Remember Talman Gardner kind of dropping that pass going down the sideline?
I was there. I was there.
That was maybe the best throw of the decade by a Florida State quarterback.
Yeah.
That
Byline.
thing was perfect.
South Florida Sun Sentinel, August 16th, 2001. Quarterback duel is over. It's Ricks. The competition between Chris Ricks and Anquan Bolden for Florida State's quarterback job ended abruptly Wednesday as coach Bobby Bowden tried to bolster a depleted receiving core. Bolden will return to receiver where he played last year, leaving Ricks as starting quarterback for Florida State's opener at Duke on September 1st.
You almost don't even need Google, do you, when I'm around?
No, not at all, man.
Just believe it.
Not all heroes wear capes, kids.
Exactly. And I guess it turned out okay for Anquan. He had if I remember correctly, he ended up having a pretty good career at receiver.
Yeah.
I think he made some money at the next level too, playing that position. So it all worked out. And, Chris Ricks, got to play quarterback for a few more years after that.
He did.
All right, we talked about on headlines real quick. He kind of, in hindsight now that we're 15 years past almost, I know he's still kind of the butt of jokes, but, Chris Ricks, he was not to blame for the lost decade. He shouldered way too much of that.
Oh, no. I was a huge Ricks fan. I fought for his honor many times on War Chant. I died on a lot of hills.
That's surprising.
Yeah.
You and Chris are cut from the same cloth.
I mean, we're both good-looking guys with olive skin. I used to have good hair too, but that
right.
kind of went away. Yeah, no. Yeah, man, Ricks. I think Ricks would be a 10-win quarterback in pretty much any non-Jeff Bowden run offense at Florida State.
I don't think he's any worse. People might roll their eyes when they hear this. He ain't any worse than Thad Busby. Thad Busby went 22-2 because he got to hand off to Warwick Dunn and Rock Preston and throw to E.G. Green and had incredible defenses and was coached by Mark Richt and not Jeff Bowden.
Correct.
I think if Chris Ricks had gotten 4 years of Mark Richt coaching, he would have been just as good as Thad Busby.
That's fair. Hey, are you going to be around this weekend? You want to hang out and grab a beer later?
Yeah, sure, buddy. Well, I'm around. I'm around tomorrow night.
Okay.
Let's paint the town, buddy. Let's get after it.
All right.
There any place we can ride a bull? Like one of those mechanical bulls? Is there any place like that in Tallahassee?
Oh, somebody tweet at us. Let us know at Corey_Clark at Wake Up War Chant. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll be back at it for you most likely on Monday. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be. He's Corey Maslon. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.